with attachment. You're noticing you've got an agenda. What kind, and I'm just curious, what kinds of things are you attached to, would you say? Is it people? Is it things? What kinds of things bring up attachment?
People.
People? And it can be things? Anybody lose their smartphone in the last month? But seriously, right? Does it happen often to some of you? My nephew has lost 8 phones, okay? In England, okay? So, but seriously, people laugh, but what happens when you lose your phone? What goes on for you? Everything okay? Everything okay? You know, for me, I have a smartphone that these friends offer to me, right? They plan, they're very kind, they pay the whole thing, and so I've gotten so dependent on it because I travel a lot, and it's very useful, right? Venerable Samta and I were talking about, you know, I read books on my phone, okay? So I travel and I can't carry a lot of books, but what happened today is the network went down. I'm not in the right network for Delhi, but whatever happened, I couldn't get to where I was supposed to be going because I couldn't access the phone. And I asked people, but they didn't know where I was going. They couldn't understand my English, and suddenly I was like, I can't get there because I can't. Everything was in the phone. Before I would have had maps, and you know, but they're all gone. Everything's in the phone, and so it's so interesting how dependent you get. And suddenly I'm like, I can't get a hold of the network, and I can't get there. I can't even access the subway map, you know, the metro map, and it was funny just to figure out where was this one place. You know, it was very simple. And so when that device is gone, what's your mind doing? What happens with your mind? Totally disturbed in a wreck? Because look at the attachment. This is a thing. This is a thing. Okay, let's work with it. So initially you work with it as the phone is gone. It's broken, you dropped it, the network's off, you lost it. You left it at a friend's. All these things happen to us. It's not there right now. What are you going to do? What are you going to do with your mind? What are some responses? This is in the moment while it's happening to you.
I get very angry and start even, shouting at the object itself. Like my laptop crashed last week.
Right? He's shouting at the object, he's saying.
My laptop crashed last week when I was doing some official work.
His laptop crashed.
I became very angry with the laptop itself. I even got impulse that I should throw the laptop.
Okay.
But I calmed down.
And how did you calm down?
What
did you do?
I told myself, like, if I'm projecting my anger towards the laptop, so that the more I project, the more the anger is going to grow.
Right.
It's not going to help. So rather I got the old laptop and I started doing my work. My mind would be frequently distracted towards my new laptop, and I would become very angry that I bought it just now and then it's not working. It went on like that for almost a week, but afterwards I let it go, and my laptop is still there, not working, but I am doing my work now.
Okay, so
it became a lot of
again,
disturbance for me. I could not do my
it's a lot
work.
of disturbance. So let's again, touching reality. Touching reality. Look at the situation. What are other responses?
You also feel a lot of fear. Yeah.
With a device that's not working.
Not just the device, it could be different things, you know. Even if you're attached to people, so you're afraid something might happen to them.
Okay.
So yeah, there's a lot of fear that you feel.
Okay. So let's analyze. Let's analyze this. First of all, we have stuff. I'm going to first talk about stuff, then we're going to talk about people. You have attachment to stuff. Let's touch reality in looking at stuff. You buy a smartphone or a new computer, a new laptop. Okay? The nature of them is to break down. They exist in samsara. We exist in samsara. Samsara is a Sanskrit word. It means to turn, to cycle, that's all. To turn or to cycle, and what we're cycling through is birth, old age, sickness, and death. Birth, old age, sickness, and death. All of that is suffering. I'm not saying there isn't a miracle of birth, but if you ask any woman who's born a baby out of her suffering, okay? So this is reality though. And what we do is we spend every moment of our lives trying to escape from the suffering of that reality. That is the cycle of life. That's just how it goes. And then devices and stuff get caught up in it. Okay, their nature is to break down. Their nature is they will lose their luster, they will not work sometimes, they will crash. whatever, and they invent a new smartphone every few months. They do it to make money, yep, and they're inventing and they're improving them, and for us it's been great. Now there's more pixels on the thing, and now my phone can talk to me, and now I'm waiting for the phone that goes to the bathroom for you, okay? I will be the first in line for that one, but the rest of them I can wait. But what happens is, let's be realistic with our mind. Why? It makes you happier. You get your new smartphone. Do you remember the last time when you got your new smartphone, right? Okay, we're all there. If you have a smartphone, not everyone has one, but think of the moment you got your new laptop, you got your new car, you got your new something, okay? How exciting. Maybe it was the newest, fastest thing out there. Some of you got that, you had to have it. I have a friend where as soon as the new thing, she runs out and she buys it. She has to have it, okay? Then what's so interesting is, next year, there's a faster one. There's a newer one. There's a bigger one. There's a shinier one. Okay? So notice this from the past years. Notice this, how the mind shifted. Last year, this was perfect. Now, so let's just be realistic. Can I be content with this for a while? Will I know they're going to invent something newer and shiny? But so the biggest thing with attachment to stuff is, and a big antidote is contentment. Can you practice contentment and be satisfied with what you have? Be satisfied with what you have. I've noticed this. The fashion industry are the most skilled psychologists. They keep reinventing and restyling the shoe and the hat and the jacket and the shirt and whatever it is, the skirt, the slacks, on and on. And it's just a little tweaking, and then you go, well, that was last year's style. I can't wear that anymore. I need a new, Don't buy into it. In some ways I never used to buy, now it's easier like this, but I never used to buy the really faddish clothes because in 6 months they went out of style. And I didn't want to I was never a big shopper. I hated it. So again, be reasonable. When you get the new thing, do you appreciate the device, the thing, the stuff, enough? And can I just be content with that for a while? Or is the mind constantly distracted? I need another one, I need a newer one, and you see your friend and there's competition. Who cares? I have an older phone. It's doing everything I need it to do for me right now. Could I be doing it faster and have a little bit more of this? Yeah, I could. But this is great because several years ago, I couldn't even do what this phone's doing. And it's okay, it's enough, right? When does your mind say, it's enough? This is enough, I have enough, right? Because that's satisfaction. That lends to contentment. And you'll be so much happier. Instead of the pulling again. See, your friends, if they're not in this room and they're not interested in some sort of spiritual path to contentment, they're constantly grabbing the next device, the next thing, the next piece of gratification. It doesn't lead to ultimate happiness. You please check. You check, please, okay? Does it lend that my mind's going to be happier just because I got the new thing? No, because next year I'm going to be, it already creates a habit in my mind that I need the next new thing and the next new thing. And he said how distracted and disturbed his mind was. Okay, so let's say they break down. It's broken. What are you going to do? Okay, so today I didn't have any use. So I went out there and I figured, what about relying on the kindness of others? What about relying on the kindness of others? I went out there, opened myself up to Delhi, not always the easiest thing to do, right? And I kind of got to the general area where I thought I was supposed to be. I was a couple subway stops off, metro stops off. But I came out and I just started asking people. And eventually, I had time. I left enough time. They got me into the right place and it was fine. So again, I think there's many people out there that can help you. Losing the mental space because the computer crashed. Computers crash. Your options? Call somebody to fix it. Get a new computer. Discuss with the company. So again, analyze the options. To sit and curse it and get angry, it's an inanimate object. What's it going to do? This is touching reality. Yelling at these inanimate things doesn't serve you at all, right? Okay, so then that's your external reality with your stuff. Okay, then go back to your cushion.
One small point in that, like when I yell at the object, how I do it is like first I get very disturbed, then I feel that I am disturbed and I have to ventilate it out. So how should I ventilate out? Then I decide that it is an object, even if I yell at it, it is not going to have any harm. Like if I yell at people, they will be harmed. But if I yell at the object,
It's true. So check if it makes you feel good when you yell at the
At that point of time,
object.
rationalize myself that if I don't yell at this object, then that anger might pent up in my mind and it might be displaced to some other people or at my work.
Okay, fair
I don't know
enough.
how, I mean there is some distortion in how I am rationalizing at that point of time.
Right.
After the point I realize it. But I don't know how to get out of this because I rationalize myself like that.
Yep. So I would say, if you're saying, but I feel better when I yell at the object and I'm not getting it out on someone else, again, fair enough to check up on your mind. What I was going to say is then I bring it back to my cushion. So I yelled at the object. I find personally yelling at an object creates a mode and a habit in my mind of yelling at something. Like it creates anger in my mind. That's my own personal experience. I mean, I've noticed from checking. So if I go back and try to meditate a little bit, this is the nature of the computer. Computers sometimes break, even when they're new. What are the options? And His Holiness always says evaluate. What are your options? Can you do something about it? Can you do something about it? My computer crashed, can you do something about it? Well, yes, I can. I can call the company, it's under warranty, I have a computer repair person, I made an appointment with them, I can't do anything about it now, but this is when it's going to get fixed. Or, no, I can't do anything about it. Then His Holiness says, let it go. Then you have to practice letting go. Nothing more I can do, move on in your mind to something else and let it go. So certain little things, I find the habit for myself personally in the yelling just creates a little bit more fuel, okay? So again, I have the external practice, in the moment what's happening, computer broke, this is going on, and then sitting back on the cushion. What's my response? Is this really a helpful response? What kind of pattern am I instilling in my mind? What are my alternatives of what I can do about it? What can I not do about it? Can I let it go and realize, shift on to something else? And you said you went back to your old computer. Okay, sometimes that's a fix that you have to do temporarily, like that. So then the harder part gets to be with people. When we shift with people, you mentioned fear. You have a lot of fear. So again, His Holiness, with the same thing would be to analyze. You have fear of somebody leaving you, or somebody getting disturbed, or somebody getting harmed, or something like that, right? What are our options? What can you do to prevent that from happening? Can you do something?
But you can't prevent people from dying. When they die,
You can't prevent people from dying. No, and is it a child of yours that you're more concerned with, or just other friends and family?
If it's about me, my mother, yeah.
Right?
So when you're in that moment, it's very hard to kind of, make sense of it. Maybe in retrospect I could, but when something happens to her, in that moment, I do react. I'm just wondering if you can hold back and not react.
So-
someone you're so close to.
Yes. So in the moment, what happens is, again, we're not habituated in our mind. So sometimes it's very difficult, and then we have reactive patterns. That's why for me, I find it's internal and external. You've got to do some sort of meditation practice, I would recommend. And one thing I wanted to mention about meditation practice is, we did a little practice in the beginning. So we might say, if you're sitting, I'm meditating. I want to meditate, or I'm meditating. But fundamentally, you're actually being in meditation. You're being in meditation. And the literal word gom, G-O-M, we might call this room a gompa, meditation hall or room. But G-O-M, gom, means to familiarize or habituate. So meditation is a form of habituating yourself with virtuous mind states. You're familiarizing your mind with virtue, happiness, non-attachment, things like that. Benevolence, compassion, loving kindness, wisdom. okay? And so what happens is initially the fear comes up, something's going to happen to my mother, right? And I have a normal reactive pattern that simply comes from the mind of delusion. And as ordinary beings, meaning unenlightened beings, our mind suffers from various delusions. I mentioned the 3 poisons. I didn't mention confusion, the fundamental poison. Confusion or ignorance, and then from that branches aversion, hatred or anger, and branches desire and attachment, the 3 poisons. Confusion, hatred, attachment, okay? So the natural thing for ordinary beings is I get afraid, and then I have a reaction from that. So initially, through my being and meditation, the internal practice, which goes side by side with the external practice, living in the world, being who we are, right? Is then I get to bring back to my cushion, if you can develop some sort of consistent meditation practice slowly, maybe you get something going, you learn at this center how to meditate, maybe 2 or 3 times a week you're able to, and then maybe it expands a little bit every day. And then I start to ask myself on my cushion, what happened today? At the end of the day, I totally messed up and I just went crazy in the face of blank, right? This happened and I lost my mind, lost my cool, I was out of control. I just look at it and go, what? Okay, so let me go back and see what happened. We have to ask ourselves, what happened? This happened, I was afraid my mother was going to this, and what can I really do about it? Can I stop anything from happening? Oh, actually I can. I could have said this to her more skillfully. I could have, in fact, you can practice in these kind of meditations the right way to say something, the right way to react. Okay, you're rehearsing. That's why we call it practice. You're rehearsing. You rehearse something until you get it right. Until you get it right. And sometimes it'll take 80 times, 300 times, and then suddenly you're in front of your mother and the automatic response comes now. Why? Because I rehearsed it in the internal practice. It takes effort. This is a path of effort, but worthwhile effort. Because the result is finally I'm taming my mind. And then what you find is the external pattern, the negative reactive one, starts to get subdued. You're not repressing it, you're not shutting it down, you're slowly transforming it, by getting to know my mind. And it takes being in meditation as well to do that. Does it make sense? Make sense? So some of you, if you can, and you're interested, some of you are already doing it, please find a way to learn a meditation practice. There's many that we add on and can enhance so that I can, and basically it's me getting familiar with my mind. Getting familiar with my mind so that I start to know, like I said, I start to catch my mind now at irritation before it's full-blown anger. So at irritation I have certain antidotes right then I apply before I'm completely bonkers with anger. Like that. So fear, what's under fear? Any ideas? It's good to know what motivates certain delusions. What motivates fear? Anybody ever think about, see, we've got to think about these things. You need to analyze the fear. What am I really afraid? What do you think you're really afraid of? Let's say in relation, if you can speak about in relation to your mother.
So I'm not afraid of her, but I'm afraid for her because she's been sick.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think fear of losing someone.
Okay.
And then again you come back to attachment, which is you holding on to someone, and I'm holding on to her
Mm-hmm.
very strongly. So yeah.
So certainly the mother-daughter bond, again, parent-child bond, very strong bond, okay? And so the biggest thing we're afraid of is death. And what can you do about that? So on some level, facing it, especially with a close loved one, very challenging. But the thing is, it's going to happen one day. It's going to happen one day to us. It's the thing that probably most terrifies most people. Not everyone, but most people. Okay? And then what happens with death is often there's an unknown. That's often underneath fear. There's an unknown. I don't know what's going to happen when I die. And then this is what really comes under the fear and then under the unknown. It's a C word. What are we really afraid of? Begins with the C. losing control. Okay? We have a need to control stuff. You know, at least to try to control my mind. But I want to control things. I would like my mother to live forever. Okay? Well, my mother unfortunately didn't. I would have loved that. It's not possible. I can't live forever. So in my meditation, just getting comfortable with, I know this is going to happen one day. And one thing I would say for parents and children, and this is a hard one, I truly hope the parent dies before the child. Honestly. The worst thing for parents, I think, is to lose a child. So my father's quite old and he's doing well. Okay, we're very close and I live with him part of the year. And there's times when, you know, I'd be in a little bit of danger or something would happen and I would just think, oh, you know, don't let the plane crash because it'll just be a complete drag for him. You know, really hard for him to lose me. You know, it's going to be hard for me to lose him, but I don't want it the other way around. I don't want it the other way. So it's also very nice you care for your mother. And the thing is, all you can do on some level is your best to try to help her with her health or taking care of herself.